Hello, this is Randy with Excel for Freelancers, and today's training we're going to be taking information from a table and automatically filling in multiple PDF forms with a click of a single button. So please join us for this amazing training. Alrighty, let's get started. So we're starting off with a table. In this table we have a total of 10 names. And this table basically contains basic information for our contacts. In this case, we're going to call them patients. Here's a reason why you might want to have this type of macro running. Let's say you work in a medical office and your boss asks you to complete patient intake forms for each and every patient coming in. He asks you write out their last name, first name, the address, city, state, zip, and email. Well, now you could write each one of these out individually. However, if you have a list of names, we can actually have Excel automate that through VBA to automate filling out that PDF. And we do have a PDF form available so that we're going to be using that. And we have it here, right in here. And what we can do is, we're going to automate filling in the information of using this PDF form, using the last name, first name, address, city, state, and the fields. And then what we're going to do is we're going to have it save that in a folder, and we can also have them printed out, but in this case we're going to save it individual, each one with their own individual and distinct name. So let's get started. First, what we're going to do is we're going to add some buttons up here, and you'll see I've pre-populated the table with data, and we also have a PDF template. And what we want to do is we want to know what template we're going to start out with. What is the PDF template that we're going to use? And so this gives users the ability to change the template should they need. So we'll go ahead and enter some buttons here. And what we want to do is we want to locate that. Okay, so we'll go ahead and enter a browse button, and that's going to help us locate where the PDF form is. And I've already written the macro on that, and it's just a very quick macro, so I'll go ahead and show that to you. And first we'll go ahead and format the button to see how we like it, and let's go ahead and give this blue color. And so basically in Excel VBA, and we can do it Alt F11 to get to it, or you can use once again the file options and go to customize ribbon. If you don't have the developer tab, you want to add it, and if you do have it, simply click on developer and then Visual Basic or Alt F11. Okay, and here I've got two macros that we have, and basically one is a PDF template. This is going to allow us to browse for a specific file, and the other is going to allow us to browse through a specific folder. So they're very simple macros that I've written that allow us to do that. Since this is not really part of what I want to teach, I've gone ahead and included these macros here so you don't have to worry about that. Okay, so the idea is that we want to browse for that PDF template. So let's go ahead and assign one of those macros. So we'll go ahead and add in that macro, and it's the PDF template here. Okay, and we'll click OK on that, and then we'll go ahead and copy that button. We want to also add in a PDF saved folders here, so we'll go ahead and assign this, called it saved PDFs. Okay, because we want a folder to contain all of the PDFs once they get completed and formatted. All right, now that we've created the button, we'll go ahead and move it up here, and so you can see the options. When we right click it, you can assign the macro, and we're going to assign the macro that we've created, PDF template. Okay, and then back down here we'll just go ahead and duplicate that button, Control D, and that'll duplicate it, and we're going to use that for our second one, and this is where our saved PDFs are going to go into. Okay, this is the folder in which our saved PDFs are going to go. So we want to assign a specific folder for that. Okay, so let's go ahead and right click that, and you can see, let's go ahead and pull that up. You can see we're going to assign a macro to that, and that's the save PDF folder. Those are those two macros that I've created already for you. and we'll go ahead and bring that back down. And now when we click on for the PDF template, it's going to basically ask us what do we want to create. And so we want to search for that PDF template, and I've created one here in the patient intake form, so we'll go ahead and add that in. And then we want to have the folder in which we are going to have those saved PDFs, and we can put it here. So I've created 2 folders, and so all the saved PDFs are going to go into this folder, and the template in which we're going to use is this. All right, so that covers us with, and now we have to add one more button, and that's going to be for our automation, and that's when we want to basically put all the names in the PDFs. So we'll go ahead and duplicate this button again, and then we'll bring this button up to the top and give this button a little bit bigger. And so what we want to do is we want to here create patient intake. Okay, so we're going to use that button to actually run the entire macro. And we'll go ahead and increase the font and change it a little bit to give it some style. And so these are going to create the patient intake forms, okay? And this will be the macro that we use. Now we haven't created this macro yet, and we're gonna walk through that right now. So why don't we'll go back into the VBA, Alt F11, and here's where we're going to create the VBA. So we can do sub create PDF forms, okay? And we're going to start off, basically we want to add dimensions to that, and then basically what that means is we want to define certain variables that we're going to use. And so to do that, we can use dim, which is short for dimension, and let's go PDF template file. Okay, and that's going to be the actual template file. We also want to define a new PDF name, because each one we're going to be assigning a new name, so we want to define that. Okay, we also want to define the save folder, the folder in which we're going to be using. We want to define that, so we'll add that to that save PDF folder. Okay. And also, since we're going to be using saving specific names for each PDF, we want to define certain aspects. Last name. Okay, so we'll go ahead and add in last name, because we're going to use that as part of the file name. And all of these are as string. These are all string values. Okay, we have others. Okay, so and then also we want to use the appointment date as part of our file name as well. So I want to use, when we create these new PDFs, I want to use the patient's last name, and I want to use the date. Okay, so I want to use both of those as part of the name. So we're going to define the appointment date and as a date file. Okay, and then we are going to do, we have to track when we go through this list, right, one by one, we have to track what row we're on, and we also want to know what last. Maybe you have a list of names of 100, maybe you have 30, so we have to find out which is the last row. So we have to define that too. So both the row that we're on and the last row, and those are long values, so we can say as long. So we will say customer row, we'll just call that the row that we're currently on, and then last row. And those are long, which means it's a whole number, as long. That's a whole number, okay? So basically that helps us define it. And next we want to define the sheet, okay? All of our work is going to be done on sheet 1, so we can start with sheet 1, okay? And that helps us so we don't have to keep writing sheet 1, sheet 1, sheet 1, and we do need to end with here, okay? So that's a good start to our macro. Okay, next up, now we want to actually define the last row. We want to know what is the last row of the data. In this case, it's row 14, but it may be something different. Okay, and we're going to use E as our column to define it, because these values are in F. Okay, so there's nothing in E other than the data, so we're going to use that as our column to define it. And to do that, we just simply have to write some row. We've already defined last row previously as a whole number, equals, okay, and then we can put dot range, all right, and then remember it's row E, okay, E, And then let's just go something long, which would be the maximum. Let's say 999 dot end Excel up dot row. And what that's going to do is that's going to give us our last row. And I'm just going to put some comments in here. Anything after the apostrophe is a comment, and it'll turn green on my screen. And that helps us see what we're doing. I always like to comment. It's always a good idea when you're programming to add those comments in here throughout the coding process, so that you can always know where you're at and what line it's on. Especially when you revisit an application after a long time, it really helps you do that. Okay, the next thing we want to do is we want to define our PDF template file. And if you remember, that is in row G18. Okay, so we have to define that. Okay, so we'll go ahead and let's give us some space here. We want to say PDF template file. And you see how that F is lowercase, right? If I do it lowercase and it changes automatically, that means I know I have the right value. It means I didn't mess up the spelling, because it changes automatically based on what I've written here. So it's kind of a nice way. Sometimes I do all lowercase and then I just hit the next line, and if things change, then I know, yeah, I didn't misspell it. So that's a little helpful trick there. Okay, so PDF template file equals, and then dot range. We don't need sheet 1 because we've already defined sheet 1 up here, so we know it's with sheet 1. Okay, and it is going to be G18. Okay, dot value, and then once again template file name. I'm just adding that comment in. Okay, we also want to define our saved folder. Remember, that's in G20. So once again, our save PDF folder equals dot range, and then G20. Okay, dot value, and that's our saved PDF folder. Okay, so that's the folder in which our PDFs are going to go in once they get completed. Okay, and you see everything changed uppercase here, so that's good. We know we're on it. And now what we want to do is we want to open that PDF. We want to open up the PDF. So let's go ahead and do that. We can do that with this code. We can call it open URL, and then we're going to add a double quotes so that it knows it's text, and the PDF template file from above. Basically all we're doing is we're telling Excel to open this file. Okay, open template file, and then we're going to put some double quotes, and that just helps it know that it's a text that starts and ends with text, so that it treats it as text. And then we want to open it as show a maximized. Okay, we want to open that up, that PDF. All right, so that's going to open it up. So we need it open if we're going to be working on it. And another thing is, one of the things that we're going to be using throughout this code is a code called wait, or application wait now. If we do things too quick in this code, it won't catch up. If we start typing and we're already coding onto the next thing without waiting for it to finish typing, it's going to get messed up. So what we want to do is we want to add in some code to just basically pause the code and allow this PDF to open up completely before we can actually start filling it in. So we need to give it some time. And keep this in mind, every computer, every application is different. So this is something you're going to have to test out on your own. For me, in my previous test, this about 6 seconds or 6/10 of a second there. Application or 6/100ths dot wait. Okay. Oops, not watches. Wait. Okay. And then basically now the current time plus, and then we're going to add in a decimal, and then 4 zeros, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then a 6. In my test, about 6. It was about 6 seconds for it to completely open. And we're giving it lots of time so that make sure it can open up completely. Okay. So now our file's open. Okay. And why don't we just go ahead and run this and see if it's working? Okay. We can run it just as is. All right. Let's go ahead and run it, and by clicking run. Okay. And we're giving it 6 seconds, and it's open. Okay, great. So it works fine. All right. So our PDF opened and everything looks great. Okay. So we'll go ahead and close it for now. And now the next step is basically what we want to do is we want Excel to go through every single row and add all of the details. Add the last name, the first name, the address, city, state, zip code, email, and home phone. We want to add all of those fields for each row. So we have to have it loop. Okay, so we have to set up a loop. So we're going to set up a loop called for next, and we're going to do for customer row. Customer row is the row that it's on. Okay, so it's going to start out at 5. Okay, because our first, if you look, our first name's on 5. That's not going to change. Okay, and then equals 5 to last row. And if you remember, we've defined last row as the last row of data, and this is going to help us define that. Okay, to last row. Okay, and then we're going to close our loop with a next customer row. So that means everything's going to be written in here. All of our code for each line is going to be written in here. Okay, and actually for our purposes, what we want to do temporarily, we don't want to go to the last row. I want to go to just one row. I want to make sure everything looks good before we loop through all 10 of them. Because if something messes up, we don't want to go. So what we can do is just comment out last row. Okay, so all I did is now it's a comment. So all it's going to do is going to go through one record. Once we know everything works just right, then we can erase this 5 and we can actually go to the last row. So temporarily, we're only going to do one single record, and that's good. We don't want it. We want to make sure everything runs perfectly before we go through that. Okay, and now we can start defining our data for each individual patient. Okay, and remember we set a variable for last name, so we can go ahead and do that. Let's put in last name, and that's going to equal dot range. Okay, that's our first column. Okay, so that's E and the customer row. Okay, dot value, and that's the last name. Okay, so that means whatever row we're on, E here, right? And whatever row, that's going to be the last name. So we're just defining the last name, and we need to do that because we're going to use it twice in the code there. So we want to make sure we've defined the last name. We also want to define the appointment date. Okay, so the appointment date is equal to dot range, and that is a G. Okay, and customer row. Okay, dot value, and that's the appointment date. Okay, and once again, all right, column G, that's the appointment date. Okay, so we've defined that because we're going to use that when we name the PDF. So we want to make sure we've entered that, and then what we want to do is then we're ready to fill out our application. Now, when the PDF opens, we need to know what state is in. You know, what we're going to be using is something called the send keys. And the send keys is really important for, let's go ahead and open it. We'll run this code. And the send keys basically allows us to mimic those keystrokes. So this opens up, and now we want to put in the last name, right? But it's not ready. I mean, if we can't just start typing, right? If I start typing, nothing happens. So what do I have to get it in the last? We have to get the cursor in this last name. How do we do that? Well, in this particular PDF, we just hit tab. Tab, right? Tab gets the last name. So we need to tell Excel, hey, we need to send a key tab to get the last name. Okay, so we can do that. All right. Okay, and to do that, we're going to use the application send keys. So we'll go ahead and type that in, application send keys. Okay, and then we're going to use quotation marks, and then open bracket, tab, close bracket, and then close quotation marks, and then true. We want it to wait until it completes it before moving on to the next line of code. So you'll always want to write true, because yes, we do want it to wait. Okay, and then we want to go ahead and after the tab, we want to enter that last name. So let's go ahead and do that. And then we're going to do that again with send keys. We can use application send keys again. Okay, but this time we're going to do the last name. All right, so let's go ahead and test that out and see how that works. All right, and then we'll go ahead and put true on the end of here so it's always consistent. We're waiting, and let's go ahead and click run on that and then see how that goes. And the PDF opens up and it tabs over and types in the last name. Perfect. Okay, great. And then the next step, we want to put in the first name, and to get to the first name, we're going to do a tab. Okay, so let's do that. And then all we have to do is basically repeat this step, and then except use the first name. Okay, we haven't defined the first name as a as a specific, which is okay, but we can use the actual sheet and range. So we've already defined the sheet, so dot range for the first name, okay, and it's going to be F, okay, range, and that's F and the customer row that we're on, okay, dot value, okay. And now there's actually one more line of code in here. In fact, it's when Excel does it, it's too fast. And oftentimes the last name won't complete before moving over, and so we have to put in a timer here. And I'll show you what that looks like. Let's go ahead and close this one out. And let's see, okay. And generally it gets cut off because it's so quick. In this case it worked, but generally we'll put in a timer. When the names are longer, it might only type in JAM before moving over to the next. So what we do in these cases is we put basically a wait. We always want to do a wait. So let's go ahead and put in that wait now, because we're going to be using that application wait now, so we can just simply copy and paste that. And what we want to do is we want to put it right after it enters the last name. We want to then wait. So we're going to go ahead and wait now, and we'll use 1/10 of a second or 1 second, but it's basically 1 second. We want 1 second in order to, before we go to the next field. And that's going to really help us wait until, make sure all the text has been typed in before we go on to the next field. So now that we've entered, and we're going to go ahead and mark this as first name so we know where we're at. And then we'll go ahead and do another wait now. Okay, so here we have tab, 𝐀𝐤𝐄𝐄𝐒's first name, and then wait now. Okay, let's go ahead and run that one more time so we can get to the next one. And it's going to open up that PDF, and it's going to enter the last name and then the first name, and then it's going to tab. And then the next is we have no age, right? So that's 1 tab and 2 tabs. So we actually want to enter tab twice to get to the address. Okay, so let's go ahead and do that. So we're going to wait so the first name's completing, and then we're going to enter tab twice, okay, to get to the next field. Once, twice. Okay, that's going to tab it. Now the next one is the address, right? So we want to put in the address. Here's the address. So that's pretty simple. All we need to do is we need to write in, we can just go ahead and copy this because it's easier to copy and paste. And let's go ahead and copy all of this because we want to do that for each field. Okay, but this time we're going to be entering the address, so we'll change that to address. And address, of course, back in our cell is column I, so we want to change that to column I. So let's go ahead and do that. All right, now it's column A, and that's all we have to do to get that address there. Okay, and we can continue on further, and the next is the city. So, and the city is 1 tab away. So we've already got the tab, and the city is in column J. So let's go ahead and change that. All right, to J. Wait now, and tab once the city, and the next is state. Okay, so we'll copy and paste that, and let me go ahead and put that in there so we know where city, state, also 1 tab away. And the state is also column K. So let's go ahead and put column K there. And then the last is the zip code for the address part of it. So we'll go ahead and write in zip code, and the zip code is in L. Okay. So our code so far, we've entered the first name, address, city, state, and zip code. Okay, let's test it out and see how we're doing. And I always urge you to, before you run any code, to save your work in case something messes up, which I often do. It's so great to save your work, because once you run code, there is no undo. So oftentimes you have to close it out without saving. So it's always good to save before you actually run your code. So let's go ahead and click run on that, and we'll see how that works. Okay, and it's okay, we already have a open, so what we want to do is we want to close this one out first. All right, we don't want that running up, and then we're going to control break the code. Okay, end. Okay, so let's run it from the beginning. So let's go ahead and click run once again because we had it open, so we want to close it. Let's go ahead and run it, and we see it entering James, John, Main Street, Angeles, California, zip code. Very nice. Okay, and we've already tabbed over, and we're ready for the email. Excellent. So let's go ahead and put in our email address. Okay, and again, we're going to paste those 3 lines of code, and the email is M. Okay, M. Okay, great. And then we have the home phone number, and I believe the home phone number is 2 tabs away. Okay, once we've entered email, we don't have a referred by, but we do have a home phone, and that's 2 tabs. So we do have to enter tab twice here. So this is going to be email, and that's we're going to be copy and pasting the tab. We want it done twice, so we want to tab twice over before entering the email. And the email is in row M. Okay, so we have that there. Excellent. Okay, and the last one is the phone number. Okay, so the phone number is also, I believe, 2 tabs away. So let's go ahead and double check that. And email 1 2 phone. Okay, good. Yeah, it's 2 tabs away. We've checked that out. So let's go ahead and type that in again. Tab one more time. Okay, good. And let's see, zip email. Okay, good. So actually we don't need this tab here, not after zip, but we do need after email. So the extra tab is only after the email. And now we're going to put in the phone number. But in Excel, the phone number is formatted in Excel. So if we put that phone number in this formatting, you see the number in Excel, it's just a number. It would be nice to have the same formatting in VBA, and we can do that in VBA as well. So why don't we go ahead and do that? Okay, so in this case, let's go ahead and just copy and paste that. Okay, so we're going to put the phone number in, but this one's going to be the phone number, and the phone number is N. Okay, but we have to write a little code before that. So we don't want to enter it exactly as it is. We want to enter it formatted. So we can do that by right before clicking Format. Okay, and what are we going to format? We're going to format this phone number, and then the next, after the next comma, is we're going to put a extra comma in there. And what is the format that we want? Well, we want I think it was 3, and then a dash, and then another 3, and then a dash, and then another 4. Okay, and that's the format. Close the parentheses. Okay, so that's basically it. This is going to format our phone number just as we have it in Excel. Okay, so that's great. And we're going to wait after that. All right, let's go ahead and check that, see how we're doing. We're going to close our current form. Okay, run it, and let's go ahead and run it now and see how that works for us. All right, it's open, and we're typing the last name, the first name, the address, city, state, zip code, email, home phone number, formatted. Great. Okay, and now we're back on the cell. Okay, but we're done. I mean, we're done with it. We've entered all the data, so now it's time to save the form. And just as if you were, now we're gonna print it. We're gonna save it. In our case, I want to make it visual for you. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to print it to PDF and save it. In your case, you may just want to print it to a local printer. But what we're going to do is we're going to print it and save it. Print it to PDF and save it, which is basically we're going to be mimicking options. Print, okay, and I already have cute PDF. This is a great PDF writer. I'll send you links. Okay, and this is going to create a PDF. So basically what we want to do is we want to mimic that action of manually printing and then click print. Okay, and once we print it, right, then this pop-up is going to come up, and it's going to tell us, it's a save dialog. Where do we want to save it? Okay, so, and that save dialog is right here. Okay, and basically it's going to say, okay, where do we want to save it? And all we need to do is basically get down to this and put in the entire URL of where we want to save, including the name. So we're going to go ahead and write that in. Let's cancel that out, and now let's do that through code. Okay, and basically the way we do that is we can go in, and the first thing we want to do is we want to use Control P. Remember, Control P is also a shortcut for quoting. Like if we do File, Print, Control P, you see that shortcut there? We're looking for that shortcut because that's going to tell us to send the keys Control P. So we need to write code that says Control P. Okay, so all we need to do is write in application, send keys, and then quotation marks, and then we're going to use this little upper triangle above the 6. We're going to use that along with the P in parentheses. Okay, and there's a great website on Excel, and I'll show that to you on all of these locations, and it's here, and I'll include this link as well, and it basically includes all of the send keys that you can use. And especially, so if we have shift, we would use the plus sign, control, the caret, that's what it's called, and the alt. Okay, so I'll include these with it because that's a great website there. And so I'll go ahead and close those parentheses, and that's going to basically say launch our print. Okay, so once it's printed, once we have it up, now we also want to wait. We want to make sure that print dialog opens up before anything else happens. So let's go ahead and wait about 3 seconds before that happens. And then once that opened up, all we had to do is press enter. Okay, all we need to do is press enter. So we can do application send keys enter. So what that's going to do is once it opens up, just click enter. Okay, so all we need to do is change this tab to an actually enter. Okay, and that's going to mimic the keyboard behavior of enter. Okay, so we're good there. And then we want to wait a good amount of time for that. Remember that save dialog? Remember it took a while to open up, so we want to also give it a while. So let's do 5 seconds. Okay. And then once that happened, we want to go directly to the path where's, and let's walk you through that. What we want to do is we want to print it. Okay, and then once it's printed, let's go ahead and remember, click enter. That's all I'm doing. I just click the enter key, and then that save dialog is going to pop up. Okay, and now what we want to do is we want to get to this field as quick as possible, right? We want to get to this field because we want to save it. And you see that little line under the N? Okay, that means Alt N. All right, let's go ahead and let's go in here. Okay, and then Alt N. You see how it's going to direct. So regardless of where we are, we're on this pop-up. If we click Alt N, it's going to go to this field. So we need to do the same. Alt N. We want to mimic that behavior. So cancel that out. Back in our code here, all we want to do is Alt N. And if you remember, our Alt N is the percentage. So Alt is the percentage sign. So let's just copy and paste this so we can avoid typing too much. And then Alt is the percentage sign, and N, that's going to highlight. Okay, that's going to highlight our text. And now we're ready to enter. And what are we going to enter? Well, we're going to enter the PDF folder. Remember the save folder of where we want to save it. And we're going to enter the name and the date. Okay, so let's go ahead and do that now. All right, so once again, we're going to use our send keys command. And what do we want to send is, let's go ahead and put another wait in there so we give it time to type out before we enter that send keys. So after we highlight that, let's give it another second. And let's go ahead and put in send keys. Okay, I don't think we need, application is not always important, but let's keep consistent here. Okay. And we want the save PDF folder. That's the folder that we designated to put our saved folders in. And, okay, we need to add a backslash there for the folder designation. And we'll go ahead and put that in. And what else? We want to put in the last name, okay, because we want each file to be saved differently. So let's go ahead and put in whatever last name we're on. And let's go ahead and put a spacer in there, so that we can space between the date and the name. So we'll go ahead and put a space in there, and then another and then what we're going to do is we're going to put in, we want the date, and the date is appointment date. Okay, but we don't want just the date. Okay, we actually want to format that date just like we formatted the phone number. So we're going to use that format command, format appointment date. And what format do we want to give it to? Well, you can really use any format you want, but in our case, we'll go ahead and do dd underscore mm underscore and then YYYY. Okay, but you can assign any type that you want. And then we want to make sure to close those parentheses. Okay, so that's going to format the date. And we also want to make sure we enter the extension, which is PDF. Okay, .pdf. That's very important, so that it saves properly as a PDF document. Okay, and So that'll go ahead and put it. And after that, what do we want to do? We want to also, again, give it time to type in that name properly. So we're going to put in a waiting time. We'll put it in 2 seconds. Okay. So 2 after they type it in. Okay. So we'll do that. And then what we're going to do is we also want to let's see, what is the next step? We want to save that. Okay. And what is the quick step? Let's go back into that PDF, and basically to save it is Alt S. Okay. Alt S will get us to that. That was to get us to the save. So let's go ahead and put in that, and okay, and then all we got to change is Alt S, and that's going to save it. That's going to click save. So then we're done. And we're also going to put in another wait time after that. Okay, so let's go ahead and put in another wait time of 2 seconds after that. Okay, and let's see how that works. Let's go ahead and run that code, see if we have any issues, and click on run. Okay, we need to save PDF folder. All right, so we gotta fix that. All right, now we can run it. All right, and we see the last name, first name, Main Street, California, good. Email, reference, home. Okay, print. And okay, the format, good. And then save. All right, and I think it worked. Great, so let's go ahead and check the PDF that we just created in the Save PDF folder. Here it is, James 14/8. We got the date. Let's go ahead and open that up. And it looks just right. That's exactly the way we want it. Okay, good. So we can go ahead and close that and close that. And now that we got it working great, we can go ahead and complete our loop with all of the necessary rows. So let's go ahead and do that. There's a few conditions I'd also like to put in. There's one line of code that I would like to put in case there's an error. And if you're continuing to run this code, you may get to the point where the file already exists. The PDF may already exist in the folder. And so what we want to do is we want to basically put in an option that says, if this file exists, delete it. Okay, so that way we don't get a pop-up that says this file exists, would you like to save it or overwrite? We don't want that pop-up. We just want to delete if it exists. So we can do that with one line of code. And what we'll do is we're going to copy this. Okay, copy this. That's basically the file name, and we have to write in if dir, that stands for directory, right? And we can do if dir, right? If that, basically we're saying if that directory, that file name is not empty, right? Does not equal empty. Then we want to delete it. And then, right, then we just want to kill it, right? Killing is the same thing as deleting it. So paste again. So basically with this line of code, what we're doing is we're saying if the file exists, delete it. And that would before we get to the save part, that way we don't get a pop-up. And that works really well. So we'll go ahead and put that in. And what that's going to do is that's going to delete this one if it exists before we ever get to that. So we'll go ahead and add that in. And a few more codes. So once the loop finishes, what we want to do is we want to close the application. And let's go ahead, and to do that, all we have to do is, I believe it's Control Q. So we go into File and Exit. So once all things, Control Q. So let's go ahead and add in at the very end. And remember, that's after our loop completes. So we're going to put in, and our loop stops here. So it keeps looping out. So after it completes, that's where we want to end that Control Q. So let's go ahead and put that in now. We can do that with the send keys. And basically we can just copy this, what we've had here, and then put in the caret. Let's go ahead and copy it. And then the caret, which is that above the 6, and then the Q. Okay, and that is going to also close the application. There's one strange bug in Excel VBA that somehow messes with your number lock, and you can simply fix that with this line of code. So I've got a line of code, kind of an odd thing. Basically, it reverts your number lock back to the way it was, because every time I seem to run 𝐶𝐻�keys, it changes my number lock from lock to unlock. So this line of code takes care of that, so you don't have to worry about that. All right, I think we are good. Let's go ahead and test this out and see it perform. So we just have, oh, and there's one other thing. Why don't we go ahead and assign this macro, that is create PDF form, okay, to the button that we created for it. So we'll go ahead and copy that and go back into our Excel, and we created a button for it, so why don't we go ahead and assign that macro to it. Paste that in there, or you can click here, okay, create PDF forms, and now we can perform all this action simply by clicking on the button here. So, all right, but before we do that, we've got to readjust the code so that it makes sure it runs through all of the rows. So we'll go ahead and back up here, and now we're going to go back, get rid of that 5, and basically now we sync for customer from 5 to the last row. Great, so now we're ready. Now we've assigned the macro here, and let's go ahead and try it. All right, and now we can see it opens it up. The last name goes in, and then the first name. Now we have the address, city, state, zip code, email, along with the formatted home phone number. And we're going to print it to the PDF writer. It'll open up. It'll launch the Save As dialog, and then it'll update the name with the last name and date. And then it'll start replacing the information with the second line. Now it's going through the second line. It's replacing all of the same things, and it's going through, and this is the second row of our table. It's going to go through the same process, and I'll go ahead and speed this up as the video is long, and then we'll come back at the end. Alrighty, we're back. The application has closed out. It's finished, and let's go ahead and check the folder under the save. And here we've got 10 names, all different names, all different files, all PDFs filled out differently. And there you go. That's how we automatically fill out PDFs using Excel. I hope you liked this video, a little bit longer than normal, but I hope you appreciated it. If you have any questions, comments, I would love to hear. And as always, please share and like this video as much as you can. Thank you so much. Please don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel and select the Send Me All Notifications options so that you can get our videos to you right away as soon as we create them.